The bodies kept appearing, not all at once, not in a way that anyone initially recognized as a pattern. One death, then another, then another. Each one explained away by the people around them, each one buried before anyone thought to ask the right questions. This is not a story from a modern true crime podcast. This is not a 19th century case study. This is ancient Rome in the 2nd century BCE, and what happened next would produce the first documented serial killer investigation in recorded human history. The killer was not a stranger. The killer was not a shadowy figure lurking at the edges of society. The killer was a woman named Locusta, and she did not hide what she was. She refined it. Locusta was a professional poisoner, not an amateur, not a desperate person who stumbled into killing once and discovered a talent. She was, by every account that survives from the ancient world, a specialist, a practitioner, someone who studied the effects of toxic substances on the human body with the systematic attention of a scientist and the cold pragmatism of a contractor. She was also, for a significant portion of her career, employed by the Roman imperial court. To understand how this was possible, you have to understand what poison meant in ancient Rome. It was not simply a method of killing, it was a political instrument. In a world where open violence against powerful people carried enormous risk, where assassination by sword or blade left evidence, witnesses, and obvious perpetrators, poison was the preferred tool of those who needed someone to disappear quietly. Historian Emily Gowers, in her work on food and power in ancient Rome, has described how the Roman elite's obsession with poisoning was inseparable from their obsession with the dinner table. The most intimate social ritual of Roman life, the shared meal, was also its most dangerous vulnerability. Poison required access. Access required trust, and trust in the Roman world was the most valuable and most weaponizable commodity in existence. Locusta understood this completely. Her first documented victim, according to the historian Tacitus, was the Emperor Claudius. The method was a dish of mushrooms, prepared with a toxin whose exact composition has been debated by historians and toxicologists ever since. The effect was death. The beneficiary was Nero, Claudius's stepson, who succeeded him as emperor, and who would go on to employ Locusta as his personal poisoner in residence. Under Nero, Locusta was not a criminal. She was a state asset. She was given a villa, she was given students. She was ordered to teach, and she was called upon when needed to produce poisons for specific targets, among them Britannicus, Nero's rival and the biological son of Claudius, who died at a dinner party in 55 CE in front of witnesses who did not dare react. Classicist Judith Ginsburg, in her analysis of Tacitus's accounts of the Julio-Claudian court, has noted that Locusta's story is remarkable not simply because of the scale of her crimes, but because of how openly the Roman state accommodated them. She was prosecuted and convicted multiple times for poisoning. Each time she was either pardoned or her execution was delayed because someone powerful needed her again. This is the part that most retellings miss. Locusta was not caught because investigators identified a pattern in her victims. She was not stopped because anyone built a case against her methods. She was caught, tried, and eventually executed only because the political patron who protected her, Nero himself, lost power. When Galba became emperor in 68 CE, one of his first acts was to have Locusta executed. Her crimes ended not because of detection, they ended because of politics. Anthropologist and forensic historian Adrienne Mayer, in her research into poison use in the ancient world, has written about how Locusta represents a specific kind of killer that ancient legal systems were structurally unable to address. She operated inside the system. She was protected by the people who were supposed to enforce justice. And the very sophistication of her methods, the fact that her victims appeared to die of illness or accident, meant that the investigative tools of the ancient world could not reliably distinguish her murders from natural death. And yet something important happened because of Locusta. The Roman legal code was expanded after her career to address the systematic use of poison as a method of homicide. The Lex Cornelia de Sicariis et Veneficis, the law against assassins and poisoners, originally passed under Sulla in the 1st century BCE, was revised and strengthened in the period following the Julio-Claudian dynasty. The legal category of veneficium, poisoning, became one of the most seriously prosecuted crimes in Roman law. Locusta did not just kill people, she forced a civilization to develop new legal instruments to address a kind of killing it had never systematically confronted before. You already know what it feels like when a system fails to stop someone who is operating inside it. When the people responsible for protection are the same people enabling harm, when the crimes only end because the politics shift, not because the evidence was found, that feeling is not modern. It is not a failure of contemporary institutions. It is at least 2,000 years old, and it began with a woman in ancient Rome who was so good at what she did that the emperor put her on the payroll.